Yeah, so we were just talking again, looking at the deer down here. We're talking about how Brian Lalli's here, back in the area and living in Falls now, and we're talking about how there's just so many deer out there, and pup pup had a little encounter, huh?
She sure did. Yeah, so we have a dog. Her name's Mooney. She's a half husky, half Rottweiler, and she's got tons of energy, as you can imagine. And the other day, we saw probably about 4 or 5 deer in our front yard, and the front door was open, screen door was closed, and she just jumped up on her hind legs and then used her front paw to open up the screen door and just took off running. And she chased them all the way across the street into this like field for probably 300 yards.
Damn.
And then fortunately the deer outran her into the trees and she gave up. But my, stupid ass was chugging after her without shoes on, trying to keep up like I had any shot whatsoever. But yeah, man, it's been cool living in Falls. It's definitely been a big change of pace.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great being with the family and just being back around with, the people I grew up with.
Yeah. So how long have you been back now?
So we moved back in October of last year. So
Nice.
eight months, maybe something like that. Yeah.
Nice. It's been a huge transition, I'm sure, and tons of life stuff has happened for you since probably the last time we really talked. Obviously, we've run into each other a few times here and there, but this is our first time really catching up. And it's been fun. Like I've through socials and everything, like had a peripheral view on everything you're up to, living an exciting life. Yeah, we're making your way back here. Let's just go right into it, I guess. So I'll give you my impression, not my impression, but my introduction for Brian Lalli.
Let's hear it.
So Brian Lalli here, owner of Rooster. So Brian you were like 4 years younger than me in school. Mm-hmm. And like your whole crew of guys was a lot like our whole crew of guys going up. So like we always kind of like recognize you guys as like us, just 4 years young or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're a really good football player and everything at Valley View. So name was in the headlines, and we always kept an eye on the squad and how they were doing. And went on to play ball at Colgate as well. And I'll give you your flowers here. You were a stud, man. You're a great athlete all around. Yeah. So from Colgate, I guess, if you want to give us the rundown, give us your journey. How'd you end up back here?
Yeah, man. So first of all, thank you for the kind words. I am blushing, but I think it's being masked by the liquor we're drinking. But so yeah, dude, growing up, like sports were everything to me. Loved playing basketball, football, and baseball. And then come high school, I think I started to realize that football was going to be my lane.
Mm-hmm.
And was fortunate enough to be surrounded by so many other good, talented football players. So, like having that much attention on our squad, without a doubt helped us all get recruited. And I was lucky to go to Colgate. Frankly, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I had never heard of Colgate before the coach showed up at, Coach Iwanis's classroom to like talk to a few of us. And my first impression was that it was in New York City. So like when Sisk was getting recruited to Columbia and I was getting recruited to Colgate, I was like, this is sick, dude.
Yeah,
We're going to
awesome.
be so close. And then
Live in
he's
the
like,
big
wow,
city life
like
together.
Colgate's like up by Syracuse, right? And I was like, shit, no. I didn't know that.
A little different.
But went up on my visit and just really liked it there. The coaches were cool. The players like treated me well. And they offered me and they wanted me to commit on the spot. But, I waited. Went home to deliberate for maybe a week, but like the pressure from mom and dad were like, you gotta go, you gotta commit because the campus is beautiful. Like
Right.
That's truly its selling point. The academics are strong, but like you go to visit the campus and you're like, wow, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, I thought that it was in, our family's best interest for me to go to Colgate. What I didn't realize is that the people at Colgate, there are other students there, they come from a different mold. Me showing up to like freshman orientation wearing like Jordans and like a tank top and like everybody else is wearing like Sperry's and like
Yeah.
a button down. I was like, where the fuck am I? I was like, what is this place?
Did I make the wrong decision here?
That's exactly what I thought. And, admittedly, that first year was really difficult. Just adjusting because, all of my like peers were like driving like, Mercedes and Rolls Royces, and their families just came from so much money.
Yeah.
And, my family didn't. My family, I grew up more humble, I guess. So that was a big adjustment for me. And not to mention the academics were pretty crazy. I was stupid enough to go into Colgate as a neuroscience major. And I went very quickly. I wasn't cut out for it. And I even had a 1.7 GPA my first semester.
So then you got to bounce back from that the
So
whole
then
time,
I
just
was
trying
like,
to recover.
Shit, man, I got to recover. That's right. But it worked out. I ended up pivoting to econ. Football started to work out. Like as a freshman, I got no playing time. I was a practice squad guy. And then I came home that summer and I went to NEPA Fit Club. Mike Marcinic got me right. He put me on a program, and when I went back my sophomore year, I was like a whole new player.
Mm-hmm.
I also developed more, like physically, and was able to work my way into the starting lineup. Junior year, I was supposed to be the guy. And then, like, midway through the season, I forgot how to catch. Just couldn't catch a ball anymore.
Got the yips?
I got the yips like you wouldn't believe. So, ultimately, I look back on my football career, and I'm very grateful for it because, it brought me to Colgate, where I got a great education. But it also, I was grateful for my, I guess, fallout as a player. Because going into my senior year, I ended up having hip surgery. I tore my hip labrum and my abdomen, and I couldn't play. But then I got to experience like college as a normal student, as a senior, and that was really cool. So
Blessing in disguise there.
Truly
sucks when you're going through it, and obviously, like, especially when there's so much work that goes into getting yourself ready for not only that season, but like basically your whole life has led up to that point, and like you're going to be the guy. And you're like, all right, let's go out with a bang, probably. And yeah, the rug gets pulled out from under you a little bit, and that's got to be brutal. But it is funny. So I had Dominic DeLuca on here, and we were just talking about athletics and like how so much stems from athletics. Obviously, like this podcast isn't revolved around athletics, but like there is this common thread woven through a lot of high achievers, I think, that comes from an athletic background. And maybe it's just it's as simple as just like you learn how to work hard and you learn how to persevere because you're constantly comparing yourself to 40 other guys in the case of football, where it's like if you just had to go do sprints by yourself, you might do 10 or 12 gassers. But when you're in summer camp, like you look to your right and to your left, there's 6 guys who are running laps around you, and like they're doing 18 to 20 gassers. Yep. And it just constantly ups the bar for you. So maybe it's as simple as that. But I think there's another component to it of just the relationship building and the networking that comes as a natural byproduct from athletics, like especially football, because the locker room's so big.
Totally.
I think you get the rub in basketball and baseball as well, but football, like you're in a locker room with so many different types of people, and knowing how to manage all those relationships. And obviously you're closer to certain individuals more so than others, but I think it just really rounds you out as a person and sets you up for success. And then like obviously it's up to you what you do with it. But even just like the relationships you get from coaches and their friends, like going back to high school, like George Juanis was our coach, and I like it's one of the first things I say about him.
Legend.
Absolute legend, Valley legend, and Bucknell legend too.
Yep.
But like he was so good about getting his athletes and players in front of other coaches. Yep. He's not promising you're going to get recruited or get a scholarship, but he's going to bring you to the table and get you in front of them, and then it's up to you what you want to do with it. Where I don't think that happens at every school, and probably wasn't happening at Valley View at that level before, with the level of athletes that our school has produced, and like the names that we were familiar with growing up. Yep. So it's just such a credit to him, because like you hear all the time, like the life lessons you learn from coaches and teachers and parents and stuff like that. But like you could directly point to like 1 or 2 specific instances where he is genuinely setting you up for success, potentially more than anybody else ever has. And it's just getting you to the table. Again, it's up to you from there, and you obviously did well with it. But like the number of guys that went on to play, whether it's D3, D2, D1 AA, D1 ball under his coaching, like I would love to see the numbers in his era of coaching versus any other area coaches. It's probably like double.
I would agree. Yep.
And like luck, like obviously you have to have the players to do that as well, which, you know, Valley View always has like a good track record with that. But how many players like didn't get those opportunities because they didn't have a coach like him? So shout out coach.
Shout out coach, man. I mean, like George Jowanitz holds a very special place in my heart for all the reasons you just described. When I look back on like my high school career, like he served as such a mentor and not just as a coach. And like to your point, like he truly facilitated getting us in front of other people so that he could you know, we could get recruited. And like ultimately I think like once you do get to college, you know, the game changes. It becomes more of a job than a game. And I think that's what kind of leads to that future success, because you have to make such a big commitment and you have to adhere to that with such discipline. And then just doing that day in and day out, like building those habits. Like I just watched a clip with Cooper Kupp the other day. He was doing a podcast with his wife. You know, you got to earn it every single day. You got to earn it. And that's what life's like. You know, like life is hard. There's a lot of shit that pops up unexpectedly. And I think having that athletic background just makes you more prepared to handle that shit. You know, like rather than panicking, rather than running away, you're like, all right, well, I just got to, you know, get back to work. And if you have good teammates and if you have good, like a supporting cast, it makes it that much easier, of course. So yeah, like for anybody who's ever asked me, you know, what the impact athletics or specifically football has had on my life, like I have nothing but positive things to say about both things. Yeah,
for sure. And to your point about basically being cool under pressure, I heard, I don't know if you're familiar with Ryan Holiday, but you probably are. I feel like you're into the same kind of stuff I am in terms of like social media thinkers. But he's this guy who basically studies stoicism and has like written 2 or 3 books now, I think, basically on 2,000-year-old principles that were written and basically how they apply or how they're still applicable to today, being 2,000 years old. And one of the things that Ryan Holiday was talking about the other day was he doesn't have self-belief from telling himself that he's worthy or capable. He has it from a stack of evidence of doing it. And it's a lot easier to trust the process when you've seen the process through and you've seen it work. And I think that's to your point where athleticism or athletics come in, because it's, if you do put in the work and you really do put in the necessary work, not telling yourself you're putting in the necessary work, you will yield the results and like the fruits of that labor. And then, you know, basically those principles apply then to the rest of your life, whether it's entrepreneurship or whatever, even academics while you're in school. It's just finding or striking that balance and recognizing the level of work that you truly need to put in to succeed, which is, I thought it was neat because there's a lot of things out there now, and it kind of like irks me when like, I don't know, people like put on their Instagram stories like, I am worthy, I am this, I am that. Like, prove it to yourself.
Why?
Don't look in the mirror and tell yourself. You know what? Like, what feels really good is having a stack of evidence, like he said, to say, I am worthy because look at what I have done. And however you quantify that, it doesn't have to be in the form of business or athletics or money or anything. It could be your family, being a good friend, being whatever it is to you. But like stack that evidence in whatever category you want to, instead of just like saying you're worthy or you deserve X, Y, and Z because you're a human being who's breathing. Like, no, like not everybody is worthy. Like you need to reciprocate it back out into the world. So I like that take on things. But yeah, man, I could circling all the way back to how you're talking about like your freshman year and feeling out of place. Like same thing. Like I went to St. Joe's and like probably not the same level of money as Colgate, but definitely people with money down there. And I was just like, I felt so out of place. Like like almost like walked around with a chip on my shoulder, like for all 4 years. I never lived like that.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I just assumed, and it was probably incorrect.
Yep.
Like, were there some douchebags? Sure. But like, I'm like, they think they're better than me because their dad's successful.
Correct.
And like that irked me so bad. And like, man, that I carried that for entirely too long in my time down there. And then I ended up loving it, like similar to, I had a great college experience, but that first year was an adjustment, man. And like we're probably like cut from the same cloth, like in terms of academics, like we both did well at Valley View and like whatever, we're like 90s students, like honor roll, all that stuff. And then you get to college and like I was taking up finance, which is nothing compared to neuroscience, but it's just like such an adjustment, man. It's brutal. Like I didn't know how to study. Because I never really had to. Like if I had to memorize certain things in high school, I would study. But like actually like sitting down, critically thinking, putting out notes and stuff like that, like I just never really had to. Not a humble brag. I just whatever. Because I got humbled then real quick, like my freshman year. Yeah. So it was just an adjustment all around. So juggling football on top of it, I'm sure was a beast.
And the other thing too, and like it's not lost on me that when you're in college, you're 18 to 22 years old, like you don't know anything.
Right.
You think you do, but you don't know anything. And you know, having that like bravado, that chip on your shoulder was something I definitely carried. I remember my freshman year, and again, I was a practice squad guy. Like I was just there to, you know, run through the motions for our starters. And we're doing like a walkthrough. It was like a Thursday or something. And we're like, I was on the kickoff team, and one of the starters like hit me a little bit too hard, or so I thought. So on the next play, I just beeline for him and I take him out. And the next thing you know, we're on top of each other. We're throwing punches. I'm like trying to hit him through his face mask. Yeah. Get pulled off of him by Coach Takasi, who's the head coach there now. And he recruited me. He's like, wow, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, it's a Thursday. This is a walkthrough. Yeah. He's like, this is not the time and place for that. So like the reason why I mentioned the age thing is because you don't have that maturity. You don't have the maturity yet to manage your emotions to where you can be like Ryan Holiday and like be stoic and like not let those things get under your skin so much. Yeah. But you know, like looking back, like I made a lot of stupid decisions. I had a lot of fun, and I wouldn't change a thing because all of those mistakes and fuck ups and like fights, like made me who I am today, you know, because I learned from those mistakes. Like I realized that wasn't how I would get to where I needed to be. Right. So I eventually, and it took a lot longer than my parents would liked.
The late night calls.
I grew up.
Yeah, could relate there. I know, and I think that's the biggest thing. And that's what separates the, let's say, 22 to 27-year-olds is, okay, looking back, having that perspective now, recognizing you're young and dumb, just getting it out of your system and adjusting on the fly for those years and starting to take a hold of your life and your path forward, and learning from those mistakes, not just acknowledging them. I think that's where people start getting separated from the pack. But so I guess with all that being said, and talking about like the relationships that you form in college and networking from football and everything, like how did that tie into like where'd you kind of go after school then?
Yeah, so great question. And that, you know, one of the key things about football and Colgate was, you know, the network. Obviously, that was important for all of us because not many of us were going to the NFL, and you learn that pretty early on in your collegiate career. So things like getting internships over the summers. Colgate had this awesome mentorship program where we each got paired up with the mentor over our freshman year, and then they were there to just help us throughout our time there, and then effectively try to get you set up for a full-time job post-college. And I struck gold with my mentor at Colgate. He was great, treated me very well, got me a lot of connections and jobs. And then ultimately, you know, I ended up in New York City, and I started out in the insurance industry, and It was a huge company, and I was like employee 67,204 and was treated that way. And again, like having that chip on my shoulder, wasn't really comfortable with like handling what I perceived as disrespect from like, these people in the office walking around with their chests out and like, barking orders or like saying demeaning things just because like they felt like they could.
Right.
And
because they're
like,
one level up.
Yeah. So like that never sat well with me. And then, I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't growing. I wasn't learning. So I ended up, I remember there was this bar down the street from our office called the Ainsworth. And I would go there on lunch for like happy hour from time to time. And I got friendly with the bartenders there. And one day I was like, what do I need to get a job here? I want to bartend. And they just laughed. And I was like, no, seriously, like I want to bartend. And the next week I came back with my resume and I was like, I want an interview. And they're like, if you're serious, like we'll interview you, but like, do you have any experience? And I was like, no. They're like, all right, whatever. We'll just let you do the interview anyway. And during the interview, they're like, we like you, but like without any experience, it'd be really tough to hire you. And I said, how about this? If I enroll in a bartending school tonight and I take the class and I finish it and I come back with a certification of some sort, you got to give me the job. And they're like, okay, deal.
Sweet.
And they thought they'd never see me again.
Yeah.
But I went home, I enrolled into bartending school, and for 2 weeks I completed that course from like 6 to 10.
Yeah.
Completed my 40 hours, took the written, took the practical, got my certification of mixology, went right back in, proud as ever. I was like, where's my job? And they're like, shit, okay. We never thought we'd see you again. But
hey guys, if you listen to the last episode, you might have heard me mention this pain relief cream from Bullhead Botanics. It's a CBD pain relief cream. And if you're anything like me, you might have had your reservations about using CBD products, but I'm here to reassure you that this company's products are completely legit and their CBD is all natural. Bullhead Botanics is a company that started locally here in PA, and they're now selling nationwide. The plant is GMP certified, and each all-natural batch is third-party tested, so you don't have to worry about any of those mystery ingredients sneaking into any of their products. You really get what you pay for with them, and that's quality CBD. They have a whole bunch of products too. It's not just the pain relief cream. Their best sellers are their anti-anxiety chewables that come in fruit punch and black cherry flavors, their high potency pain relief cream like I just mentioned, and their pet calming treats. And I could vouch for these as well. Wrangler for the first 5 years of his life was completely unafraid of fireworks, thunder, gunshots, all that stuff. But just within the past 6 months, the storms have really been affecting him. So I knew the fireworks were probably going to have the same effect. Just gave him one of these pet calming treats. It's a CBD product again on the 4th and 5th of July. And it really helped him out, getting through the night with the fireworks going like crazy. So these would be perfect for obviously like the 4th of July fireworks, but also any thunderstorms or anything like that. So if your pets are suffering with that anxiety, these are a great choice as well. So go check them out at bullheadbotanics.com and use code LOCAL20 for 20% off your first order. I'm telling you, this stuff works. It's a really good product and there's no side effects. So give them a shot. Again, it's code LOCAL20, bullheadbotanics.com.
All right, you start next week. And then, so I would work the 9 to 5 and then I would bartend from 6 to 1 and I'd get home at 2. And I did that for 4 nights a week for 4 months.
Oh shit.
And it was grueling, but it was great money. Yeah. And it was a lot of fun, being a bartender.
Yeah.
So, that ended up, it wasn't a sustainable lifestyle by any means, because I noticed that I would, fill up my water cup behind the bar. And then 2 hours into my shift, I'd start putting in tequila. And I was like, all right, I got to stop this.
You get one guy in there just giving you good vibes. Yeah, I'll have a drink with you. Why not? Whatever.
Portnoy came in once. He was doing a show there. It was a podcast, actually. He was doing a podcast at the Ainsworth every Thursday night.
No shit.
He would show up. And this was Barstool. This was 2017. So Barstool was big at the time. And I one time walked up to him and I was like, hey, you should come up to the bar after your show. Let's do shots on me. Mm-hmm. And he just laughed at me.
Yeah.
What's up, kid? But that was cool.
That's real cool. Damn. Caught him in the early days too. Cause that probably wasn't peak Barstool yet. Cause I could definitely big, but yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So how long did you end up doing it for?
So that was for 4 months, and then I ended up getting a job at NYU Stern because I thought I was, had this genius plan. I wanted to get my MBA, but I realized I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, if I work at the institution, then I could get my tuition covered.
Right.
So I get this job as a fundraiser, basically like managing the senior MBA classes, class gift, and then like calling on donors, like high profile, high net worth donors, and getting them to donate. And it was cool. I liked that job, but it didn't work out, in short. And then I was unemployed. So I was, chilling in New York City for 3 months over a summer, just broke as ever. And I would put on a suit in the morning, and I would just like go hang out at a coffee shop, and I would just aggressively apply to jobs. I think I applied to like over 900 jobs that summer, which shit. I now realize is not the right strategy. So like anyone who's listening, don't do that. Be targeted about your
don't
job
just
search.
Shotgun spray some out there and see what sticks.
Yes. Had some crazy interview experiences. Nothing really was like interesting to me. And then I was at my pool in our building on a Sunday, and met this guy who happened to be the director of the box office at Madison Square Garden. Told him what was going on in my life, and he's like, well, we're hiring. It's a union job, pays $30 an hour. You can sell tickets for the Knicks. I was like, it sounds great.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
So he got me in for an interview the next week, and they hired me right away because I could speak Spanish. So for probably about 4 or 5 months, I worked at Madison Square Garden behind the glass windows of the box office, selling tickets to all the events there, all the games, and any Spanish-speaking customer would come to my window.
Really?
And I knew the script, like it was.
How'd you know how to speak Spanish that well?
I studied in school, and then I studied in Barcelona for a summer.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So you just went all in on it.
Yes, back then. Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Damn. That's wild.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So then what happened? You're selling tickets at the Knicks.
Yeah, so selling tickets there, and then Colgate Football Connect. A good friend of mine, Jimmy DeSico, had just started Super Coffee with his 2 younger brothers. And, I reached out to him just being like, hey, dude, like you're doing what I wish I was doing. And at the time, like Super Coffee was still really in its early stages. But like, it was you're starting to see it. You were starting to see that in like bodegas in New York at, some small grocers. So they were starting to catch on. And I reached out to him. I said, let's meet for coffee. So we met for coffee like 6 a.m. in like the financial district. And he told me like, I think I might have a friend at like a yogurt company that, could be a good job opportunity for you. And then like 2 weeks after that, he emails me and he's like, screw the yogurt company. I want you to come work at Super Coffee. Come in for an interview. And I was like, great. So then I went in. I'll never forget this, suit and tie. Because remember, I was programmed, right? Like I was wearing a suit and tie every single day. And I show up that day in a suit and tie, and Jimmy looks at me and he goes, if you ever walk into this office again with a suit and tie, I will fucking fire you on the spot. And I was like, great, that's music to my ears. This is where I needed to be.
Yes, gym shorts and a t-shirt.
It worked out great, man. It was like a lifeline, truly. And it was really exciting working at Super Coffee because it was just that scrappy startup that I needed to be in, where I had the autonomy and the flexibility to like not call my own shots, but like be an adult and be trusted to make good decisions and like take risks and like do what I thought was best for the business rather than like following the processes and systems in place.
You're just a cog in the wheel. Yeah.
Exactly. So I was managing the wholesale program, which was e-commerce, B2B sales, like targeting gyms and like small nutrition shops, stuff like that. And then COVID happened. So like all of those places shut down. Like our wholesale sales went from like they plummeted to zero.
Yeah.
So then, we're all shut down at that point. It's like March of 2020. I'm sure you can remember what you were doing at that time. And Jimmy calls me. He's like, listen, like, we can't keep paying you to do nothing. So, like, we're going to give you a super coffee truck, and you're just going to drive around New York City, and you're going to drive around New Jersey, and you're going to sell coffee to supermarkets. And I was like, bet, let's do it. And it was so much fun, but also, like, super eerie because at the time, Manhattan was dead, man. There's not a person on the streets.
Yeah.
And I'm driving around, like going to hospitals, like dropping off coffee to like the essential workers and the nurses and the doctors who are actually essential workers. And, the like smiles on their faces. Like you could just see how drained they were.
Yeah.
So like me bringing them boatloads of caffeine was like God's gift to them.
Oh,
it was
God,
amazing. But again, like super eerie. It was crazy driving through Times Square.
It's weird times.
Nothing, no lights, no people.
Right.
And then they respected that I stepped up in that way. So then once like COVID settled down, they promoted me to manage the partnership that they had just negotiated with Anheuser-Busch InBev, which was a master distribution agreement. So essentially my job was to get Super Coffee on like all of the Budweiser and Bud Light trucks across the country. So at the time,
kind of a big deal.
It was cool, man. It was a lot of fun. Like, I think when we signed that partnership, we were partners with like 40 AB distributors. And by the time I left, we were partnered with over 500.
Holy shit. Yeah. And like, just to provide a little context from the little bit that I know, if you're not familiar with Super Coffee, like you've probably seen it in the grocery stores now. Like it's fairly commonplace in every grocery store and convenience stores and everything. But those guys who started the company, the brothers, I think like they were recognized as like Forbes, like 30 under 30. Like I'm making it up, but like a $500 million company now. Like it's massive. Yeah. It's completely huge. So like you getting in at the early stages, like I remember seeing that and I'm like, damn, like I want to be doing that. Yeah. Like that fired me up because I'm like it's still in the infancy stage, but you could see like the projection of us like, it's going to blow up. And then like we were just chatting and like you're like, oh, I'll send you a box or whatever. And like, dude, I like the product. Like I will still go to bat for it. Like I think it's a great product. Like I love Super Coffee. I don't always buy it because it's pricey.
Yeah.
But it is like very good and warranted of the price.
Yeah. It's better for you coffee. Right?
Yeah.
If you're going to drink coffee, you might as well throw some protein, a little extra caffeine.
Little MCT.
It's
right. It's good stuff. So yeah, like that was super exciting. Like for me, like just knowing you and be like, oh damn, like look at Brian, like just working at this startup that's like going to the moon right now.
Yeah.
That was cool to see.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you saying that. And like truly all credit goes to those guys because, you know, it was their vision and they're three of the hardest, if not the hardest working people I've ever encountered in my life. So I owe a lot of, you know, credit to them for showing me how to operate.
Again, it's just like resetting the bar, like how I was saying before with guys running sprints. And like it just applies in work. So like, dude, I experience it like not once a week, but like especially like if I switch positions or anything like within my world, it's like, oh, like that's why they're in that position. Like sometimes like people don't deserve the position that they have, and then then when you're surrounded by a good team, you look up and you're like, oh, like their brain is just different and they work like a dog. Like that's why they are where they are. And so yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's just like there is truly levels to everything. And sometimes like if you're working for like a small business or a small company, like you don't get exposed to that because you might be around the same people for 25 years. But like when you do work at a bigger company or a startup like this that is projected to do like crazy numbers and like growing at an exponential rate, you do get surrounded by these high achievers that you're just like, all right, I gotta up my shit here a little bit.
And then once you up your shit, that's the standard. That's the new standard. Right. So now like your bare minimum every day.
Ceiling is a floor.
Exactly. Took the words out of my mouth. So like, again, huge credit to those guys. Loved my time there, learned a lot. But ultimately, I kind of realized that I didn't have any hard skills at that point. Like I could sell some things, I could communicate with people who are like higher level than me, but I didn't have anything that I could point to and be like, that's valuable. And I came home, I can't remember when, but I was visiting my parents. I was having breakfast with my dad, and he was a programmer his entire career, and I never knew, like, because when I was growing up, like, that was like foreign to me. Right. And like he wasn't much of a talker. So like I never actually understood what my dad did for a living.
Just computer stuff. Right. And then, 28 years old at the time, I'm sitting down having breakfast with my dad. I was like, Dad, what did you do in your career? And he explained it to me. I was like, that sounds awesome. I would love to do something like that. He's like, yeah, why didn't you ever consider it? I was like, Dad, it never crossed my mind. And,
I went back to Austin, and this is how I know that they're listening. Started getting targeted with like coding bootcamp ads on Twitter and like all of my social media. UT Austin coding bootcamp. And I was like, haha. And then I kept seeing it. I was like, I don't know. And then I kept seeing it. I was like, this might be a sign or whatever. So then I talked it over with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my fiance, and we're happily engaged. And she supported me. She's like, you should do it. That sounds great. She worked in tech. She's like, I think you would be great at that. So I left my job at Super Coffee. I resigned and enrolled in this coding boot camps. And then for 3 months, I just, did that boot camp, learned how to code.
Damn.
And then afterwards, I was very lucky to get a job at Whole Foods Market. Former coworker at Super Coffee was working there. He was like their global head of talent or something, and he helped me get a job on the e-commerce team. And then I was managing global inventory for Whole Foods Market on Amazon for all 500 plus of their stores.
Wow.
So I got to somewhat like use that new skill, but it was more so like data analytics than it was actual like web development.
Right.
So then on the side, I was, building, pet projects, like fantasy football shit, like anything that I found interesting. And then eventually like some friends were like, hey, like I sell, glassware, like, can you make me a website? And I would make a shitty website for them. But I kept on, working on my craft, working on my skill. And then
putting in the requisite 10,000 hours.
I'm not even close to it. Yeah, but I'm trying, man. I'm trying to get to it.
Coding's from what I don't know anything. Yeah. I don't know much about coding, but I know it's a lengthy process at times. So I'm sure you'll get to your 10,000 faster than some other disciplines might.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. It's definitely been a lot of fun learning. And with the advent of AI, it's never been easier to learn. If you know how to prompt AI, you can get it to write very complex code for you in seconds.
That's crazy.
So to be perfectly honest with you, I hardly even write code.
Right.
I'm just using AI, and I've programmed bots in very specific use cases to like spit out certain things that I need for websites or apps.
You got into it at the right time. You didn't have to go through all the schooling. You just did your 3 month, was it 3 months, 3 month boot camp.
Yeah.
And now you just are leveraging the technology that's at your hand, at your disposal.
It worked out pretty good.
It's good timing.
It worked out pretty good looking back on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's where it's like, hey, the new hard skill within what you're doing is knowing how to leverage the new tools. And nobody knows how to do that, myself included at this point, where you can make these things work for you. It's like there's always new technology. And like when computers were first coming out, the people who knew how to leverage it as a tool and not something just for pleasure or whatever, like checking emails was cool back then. Those are the people who got ahead. And now AI is on that same path where it's just like you could either use it for dumb shit, and that's fine too. Like if you just want to mess around with AI to create digital art for you on a whim and screw around with that, or you could use AI to create you a new logo and a complete like starter pack for like a new company. It just depends which way you want to go with it. So it's like, hey, credit to you, man. If you're using it to lighten your load, more power to you.
Yeah, and I think that's truly the future. AI is not replacing humans anytime soon, in my opinion, because humans are still controlling AI. Like we are prompting this AI to do specific things. So for anyone worried about that, I would say you're good for now, but at the same time, like it's also rapidly increasing.
Right.
And it's
the exponential rate where it's like learning from the AI and the AI is learning from that. It's like, that's what scares me, where it's like, how long do we have? Because I even see it at work. Like, so I recently, at this beginning of the year, I transitioned from a finance role to a marketing role.
Okay.
So like I spent my first 10 years in finance, and I could see the writing on the wall. We're not there yet, but like the company's like being so blatantly honest about it. They're like, we are doubling down on AI. Like all of our competition is obviously like every company, like working for Santa Fe, like it's a huge global company. Like they have to. You're going to get left in the dust if you don't. And I could already see the processes in place. I'm like, I'm working myself out of a job. Like I'm doing things right now. Like some of my new tasks for 2023 were writing on the wall. Like 2 years from now, AI is 100% going to be doing what I'm transitioning this job to. So I'm glad I wiggled my ass out of there while I did, because I think marketing has a little bit more runway for now.
Was that why you pivoted?
No, whatever, different reasons, but like silver lining there for sure. Because I'm like, they're gonna be able to cut their finance team in half or more within 3 years. And like that's just one little example. So like at the end of the day, like you still need those higher level positions to oversee and analyze and break down all that data and ultimately make decisions on it. But a lot of the like level 1 through 3 stuff, AI is going to be doing a lot of that stuff, man. So like you got to get yourself to a level of excellence like now.
I would highly encourage anybody working some type of administrative role, something to do with computers or text or data, to like learn to use those tools as quickly as possible, just for your own job security, because you know, they might not be able to replace you as easily if you have a strong foundation in that technology, because then you could find new ways to apply it that add value to the company. But I also think it's really interesting that like now you're seeing a lot of, you're seeing an increase in trades and vocations. You know, Gen Z is also like recognizing that AI is going to take over some of those job prospects, and college is not getting any cheaper. So like, what's the point?
Isn't it funny how it just like naturally works out like that though? Like it's not like AI was invented or created because there was a surplus of educated people. It just kind of happened organically with the growth in technology, and obviously like the economy is always trying to advance itself forward, and that's how we do come up with like the technology that we do, that or the military, whatever. But it is crazy how it just cycles itself back to like water finding its level, because they're like for 30, 40 years, you got to go to college. You're nothing if you don't go to college. You're an idiot. You're a bum. You're blue collar's this, blue collar's that. Like, whoa, well, you're wasting your time. And now like we're in that window where if you are in blue collar, you can make great money, like working in the trades. And unfortunately, now everybody's realizing that, and there's probably going to be a surplus again in the trades of people, and then those wages are going to come back down. And it's just weird how it all balances itself out, and it's not even like a cause and effect in this case. It just kind of happened, which is weird.
And just to like nerd out a little bit, just because we're on the subject, I just finished listening to this audiobook, my favorite series ever, the Jack Carr series. There's a show on Amazon, Terminal List, but this latest book that just came out was about how the U.S. military was working on, they called it Program Overmatch, and it was about how AI was controlling all of the nuclear codes and could control the entire like naval fleet and all of like the Army's missiles and like you name it. It was programmed to like handle defense and offensive moves like with no hesitation.
Milliseconds.
It could predict it, and then it could counteract it just like that.
That's
and wild. It was like this big battle against like the U.S. and China, and I was like, shit, dude, I hope this doesn't happen anytime soon.
And that was his first or no, that's not true. I was gonna say like his first like kind of fiction, but I think they all kind of have like,
they're like very closely based on reality, because he comes from that world. So like he's got those connections, and he's been writing forever. So like at the end in his like epilogue, he kind of like hints at like this is actually real. Like they're actually working on this, or I can't conclusively deny that the government isn't working on something that does this.
Right, just infer, read between the lines.
Exactly. Yep.
He's really interesting to listen to, and like his approach on things, like just like he's so well spoken and just like so dedicated to his craft, where it's just like, man, like that, I guess that's how you get that good. Like,
so I want to ask you a question. Talk about being dedicated to your craft. So you started Locals Only Project how long ago now?
I think coming up on 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So from my perspective, like kind of being an outsider looking in, what I am most impressed by, because I know how hard this is to do, is your ability, your evidence, your stack of evidence of community building. You've built such a strong community within the community, and I think that's remarkable. So how did you do that?
So that's where, like, very early on, like having that mission behind the name and not just having an apparel company or clothing company. Like I wanted it to serve a purpose in some form or fashion. So for the longest time, when I originally started it, I had like a slight interest in photography and videography, but I didn't have any like technical skills. Like to your point, like I didn't have any hard skills to go out and do some of that stuff. And then I kind of had to just to have the content and social media stuff to post. But the origin of it actually started from like an Anthony Bourdain series on YouTube sponsored by like some whiskey company or whatever. Bellevue, I think. Is that like a whiskey company?
It sounds like
Bellevue.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
If you want to sponsor the Only podcast,
yeah,
he's open to it.
We're open to it. And it was called Rockcraft. And obviously like Bourdain's knack for storytelling and like painting a picture and just like his conversational skills with people, like you could listen to him like read the friggin' dictionary and it's interesting. Like his own little take on things. Rest in peace. And anyway, like in that series, I think it was maybe like a 10 or 12 part series. He would just go to like different makers. And at this time, like I was still doing some woodworking. So like I was in that mindset kind of, but he would go to somebody just like this obscure guy who like had a probably really successful business, but like nobody's ever heard of him, but he was making custom motorcycles, like from scrap metal, like from the ground up. And he would just do like an interview, like while they're walking around the shop, and maybe he would like finish the back third of the bike while Bourdain was there or something like that. So you get a peek behind the curtain, or like a knife maker. And he would go through the process with these guys and just talk about like these types of conversations just in a condensed version, like a 10 or 12 minute video. It's all on YouTube. It's called Rockcraft. If you have any interest at all in like anything like that, it's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, you would definitely enjoy it. And I saw that and I'm like, oh, dude, I would love to do that. Like there's so many people with such cool stories doing such cool things, and like that's what I want to do. Like I want to, like I'll do one a month. I'll do one of these little like docu-series a month on like anybody. Like one of the first people I remember coming to, like I grew up with Jesse Trickle, who was my neighbor growing up, and like not that he was doing anything like that spectacular, but he was like always a gearhead, always in the shop, always
paintball plenty of times.
Dude, I say this about him all the time. So he was actually like a pretty good athlete growing up, and then just drifted and like got into like the more extreme sports. Literally anything he picked up in that world, he became the best at like very quickly. He just like exceptional. Like he would rollerblade for a week, and then like 3 weeks later he'd be at the Dome on the half pipe doing shit that nobody else was doing. Like he was just good at all that stuff because he's just no fear. But he was doing his powder coating and stuff at the time. And really like one of like maybe one or two people in the area doing powder coating. And I'm like, a lot of people probably don't know how powder coating works. And Jesse's like interesting in his own right. I'm like, it would just be cool to go up there, like get a peek behind the curtain. You learn how powder coating works, and it helps him as a business. And you get to hear his story a little bit, how he landed here. Like how are you doing this when your family business is food distribution? Like how do you end up, whatever. So just like stuff like that. And I'm like, I would love to do that. So anyway, reality sets in, and it's like, it's like a $10,000 job. Like to do to do it properly and have like a full, like you do need probably 3 or 4 hands on deck between like lighting, different cameras and everything. Like I don't want to half-ass anything because nobody's going to watch it. So whatever, like the reality set in. I'm like, okay, well, this isn't realistic just yet, but maybe someday, like, circle back to this idea of like telling these people stories, and then the idea also became like go around the country. Like, this is a cool way. Like, if I was doing it full time, like, go around the country. Like, I get to travel to all these places, and whether it's a local bar or whatever, and just like do these little mini docuseries of like hidden gem places or businesses or makers or whatever. So you get to meet all these cool people. You help expose your audience to these cool places where it's like, hey, if you fly to Jackson Hole for a summer vacation, like, make sure you hit this spot that nobody really knows about. And because you saw this 10-minute video. So anyway, like, my head was all over the place with it, but ultimately, all that to say, like, my intent with the business wasn't to sell t-shirts. It was to tell stories and bring the community together and highlight these people. So it changed, obviously, just because time limitations, money limitations, whatever. So I had to like kind of get crafty and come up with a different approach. So that's like how we ended up doing the roundup and stuff like that. Which again, it's just a party, but like, it's because enough people have got behind the mission and shifted their mindset enough where it's just like, hey, dude, even if it's once a month, you make the conscious decision to go to a mom and pop restaurant instead of a chain when it's Tuesday and it's 7:30 and you haven't eaten dinner yet. Like, take the extra time. You might not be able to order it on your phone, and like, just call up and like support the mom and pop store over the chain restaurant that would be easier and more convenient at the time. That ultimately drove to this like community of just like-minded people that are down to have a good time and support the same thing. So it is weird though. Like, I don't want to take too much credit of it because I think a lot of it just kind of happened organically. Keeping things light, I think, in terms of what you're presenting on social media, like that's another thing. Like, building a brand around something that you're going to do anyway. So like on the weekend, like maybe a little bit less now, like we're getting a little older, but like, I'm going to go shoot clay birds with my buddies, and we're going to drink beer in the woods and have a fire anyway.
It's a lifestyle.
So you just build a brand around that, and like that becomes like the lifestyle of the brand now. And you create some content around it. You bring a couple of cameras, and hey, whatever happens. And I think people bought into that as well. So like, that played into it. So it's just like, it's like, damn, like, I wish I could go do that with my buddies, or maybe I will next weekend because I saw like, that's a good idea. I should do a slip and slide in the front yard, whatever it is. Just stupid stuff like that. And I just think that helped probably contribute to it. But yeah, I think it was always like the North Star, if you will, in the back of my mind, where it's like, I'm not in it to be, I don't know, name a brand where like you're just pumping out t-shirts because people like your design. Like, I wanted it to have more of a mission and feel some of the community that builds behind it, rather than just, you know, money in your pocket or whatever. So long answer, but
well, your job well done, because you absolutely crushed it.
Thanks.
And I know there's plenty more success to be had. And I think 2 more points that make it even more impressive to me is you did this all while working a full-time job. And you parlayed this like side hustle passion project into like an opportunity for you to learn new skills and get better at something. And now you just change your full-time job, I'm assuming largely based on the skills that you learned by running, you know, locals only.
It is weird, the chain reaction that happens where it's like I said, like, I had no photography skills, and then I was like, well, I also don't have enough money to pay a photographer and every time I have a new t-shirt, so I need to just buy the $800 camera, learn on that, and take the pictures up front. And then like, I grew to love that, and now like, I just enjoy doing that as a hobby more so even than the business. And then like, just with like I'm like, I want to start a podcast. But like, okay, I have like we were talking about it before we started, like I have the visual side of it down for the most part, but like I don't know anything about the audio or lighting and all this stuff, like in terms of like studio lighting and all that. So it's like you learn all that stuff, and it's out of necessity, but then it's cool because you have it in your back pocket, and yeah, like it might be 4 years from now, but like something's gonna come up where that pays off as a benefit, like how you're saying. I transitioned into a marketing role. So like I was working a finance job for 6 years before I transitioned to a marketing role, like while starting my business. But like literally I was in my 3rd round of interview for this marketing role. And so to be completely honest, like they were full transparency. Like they were, they basically offshored a ton of finance jobs to Colombia. So I was losing my job. Like they gave me like ample time. Like they were really good about like, we want to keep you at Santa Fe. We just need to find a different spot for you. So like I was applying to like all these different finance jobs. And, then I was like, you know what? Like now, like why not now? Like make the jump. So I applied to this marketing job, and like the first interview went well, but like they were just concerned. Like I have no experience. I'm 10 years into my career. Like I know the business because it's the same company, but like different level. Finance to marketing. And then I'm like, in the back, I didn't mention Locals Only Project at all. You didn't? No, because I'm like, are they going to view it as a distraction more than anything else? Fair. And then
it sucks that you even have to consider that.
I know.
Like that should be the biggest thing on your resume. It's
I know.
So impressive.
I know, but I was just like, I was very hesitant to do it. Okay. And then in the second interview, like I could tell it was going well again, and they liked me, but like they were just reiterating like your lack of experience. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going for it. Screw it. Like I have nothing to lose at this point. And I told them, and whatever. They didn't say it immediately, but like my boss told me, like once she hired me, she's like, if you didn't talk about that, there was no way you were getting this job. Nice. So it's just like little stuff like that, like chain reaction stuff. Like, hey, if I didn't start this side hustle 8 years ago now or whatever, like I would be out of my 9 to 5. And maybe that would have been a blessing because I could go all in on this. But like it would have been a hard spot for a while. So whatever, it all works out, and as long as you're putting in the work.
It's funny though, like looking back and just like realizing those situations where you're like, wow, life's really fucking me right now. Why is this happening? I wish it wasn't. And then you get through it, and then you look back 6 months later and you're in such a better position. You're so much happier. And you're so grateful that it happened. Yeah. And it's like, I wish I could just like know in that moment. And I guess that's something that I've worked on, truly, is that like I said, like when shit happens and life's difficult and you face that adversity, like it doesn't have to be the end of the world. Like, there's always another door that opens.
Yeah. And it does get slightly easier, like when those new hurdles pop up, but every time you're like, fuck, man, like just get me out of this mess already. But then like every time you like very often, because I don't know if it lights a fire under your ass or whatever it does, but it shifts your mindset enough where you start making sometimes big moves, and it's like, hey, I don't have a plan B. Like I got to make this go. Yep.
And that's kind of like what happened with me, frankly, because when I was at Whole Foods, Grace was pregnant, and she, what was it? I think 3 days before she was set to return from maternity leave, she got laid off by her company. So I ended up, talking things through with her, and I was like, what are we going to do? Like, we have a kid. What are we going to do? And we decided it was best to move back here. So I went to my boss and I said, listen, like this transpired, it's best for my family to move to Pennsylvania to be closer to my family so we can get some help. And they're like, okay, you're going to have to resign because we don't allow remote workers. I said, all right, see you later. And, being backed into that corner, like, I thought, like, do I aggressively apply to jobs again? Do I, like, call on my network, see if I can find an opportunity from someone I know? Or do I just take this leap? Yep. Because I've been working at it. I invested a lot of money and time into learning this new skill. Why don't I just go for it? And it was, I'm so grateful I did because it, wasn't immediately successful, and it still isn't incredibly successful, but it's successful enough. I can pay my bills, and like living with my parents helps because I don't have as much. Grace ended up getting a new job was like much higher pay, and she was able to she got promoted twice within the last 6 months. So like, again, like you look back and you're like, thank God Whole Foods doesn't allow remote workers. Thank God Grace got laid off.
All these little like breaks, breaks, or what seemingly seems like the opposite of a break, whatever, like in the time. But it's like, yeah, man. And like to your credit, like investing in yourself is one of the best things you could do, because like having more skills in your back pocket is never going to hurt, and like you truly never know when you're going to apply them, and like you obviously had a rough plan of like you wanted like a career potentially out of that, but like if things didn't go the way they did and Grace didn't get pregnant, like you might still be at Whole Foods and just like going through the motions of life. And now, like, you could just tell, man, like, you have this fire, you have this, like, aura about you, or you're just, like, got, like, a lust for life right now because it's exciting. And, like, okay, in year one, are you potentially making less money than you were at Whole Foods? Sure. But, like, let's see in year 3. Let's see in year 3 the difference. Like,
that's what I tell Grace. I said, just give me 3 years.
Yeah.
I just need 3 years. And she's been so supportive. Like, I would be remiss not to mention on this podcast how wonderful Grace is. Yeah. Because she supported me every step of the way, just like Krista does for you. So, like, that is so important. They deserve their flowers every Mother's Day, every birthday, and every random Tuesday of the month. Now
that you did make the jump and you leaped headfirst into entrepreneurship and starting your own thing, give us the full rundown. I think I could give a brief overview, but I'll let you do it. It's full justice. What are you exactly doing these days with Moon Rooster?
Yeah, so I build websites and I build mobile apps in a nutshell. So I've been very fortunate to partner with some local businesses in this area, like Joyce Electrical and Stefersky Paving Company, Century Dental, guys that I've known for a very long time who like took a chance on me. And like in return, like I went above and beyond to make sure that I was delivering something that I knew they'd love, and that I was proud of, because ultimately, like if I'm going to put my name on anything, then like I want it to be, top notch. And I've also been able to, work with some clients overseas. Like I worked with this client in Dubai who wanted to build this mobile app for like increasing your karma. And it was like an AI life coach. And that took like 5 years off my life. That was so stressful building that thing.
Sounds like a beast.
It was tough, but we got through it. And I do have help. I want to give a huge shout out to Jordan Furdock. I don't know if you remember Jordan Furdock.
Yeah.
Jordan Furdock is a seasoned software engineer. He's so good. He's like graduated above, and now he like manages a team of engineers. But he's helped me tremendously. He served as a great mentor, a great friend. I've learned so much from him. And he's helped me on a lot of projects. But my goal with this company is to like continue building websites for small businesses in this area, because I realized that it's kind of a strategic advantage being in this market, compared to New York City or Austin. There isn't as much competition for the work that I do. And there's a million small businesses who could use some support in that area. So like my bread and butter is definitely just building websites and mobile apps, but where I would like to evolve is like being a partner, like an everyday partner for these companies where they can hire me and I'm there to help them with any of their technology problems. And we're not there yet, but like we're making steps towards that.
Yeah.
But so if anyone needs a website or a mobile app,
he's your guy. Hit him up. What's the website? Moonrooster.com?
Moonrooster.com. That's right.
Check him out. Is that the best way to contact you, or like to find the contact info there, or?
Yeah, just go to moonrooster.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with Moonrooster?
So Moon is my dog's name, and then roosters are very important to me because when my brother passed away, my best friend wrote me a poem. And it was called For You, Rooster. And it was about this rooster who grows up on a farm, and he's beloved by all the other farm animals because every morning he wakes them up by singing them this song. And then one day the rooster clips his wing, so he can't wake up the other farm animals. So all the farm animals, rally together and nurse the rooster back to health. So it was very symbolic of like what I was going through at the time, and
Cool.
the most touching, thoughtful thing anyone has ever done for me. Like I cried my eyes out reading it for the first time. He's now since published it as a children's book. And so when I was naming my company, I knew I wanted to incorporate Rooster in it some way. So I just, matched Moon with Rooster because I thought it sounded cool with all the like O's.
You won't forget it, that's for sure.
That's how Moon Rooster came to be.
I like it. That's a cool origin story for the name there. So like getting into the weeds of like starting your own business, like not necessarily the process, but like, did you have to like, in terms of like invest, like you don't have to say dollar amount or anything like that, but like you obviously are willing to invest in yourself financially in terms of courses and stuff like that. Like even the bartending school, like not a lot of people would do that. They would just say, teach me on the job or whatever. And then like going to the boot camp for coding and everything like that. Like, again, not like, especially once you're into your working career, I think it gets even harder to like go back to school and, like try and do something different. Like people just like getting in their groove and going.
Yeah.
Like, are you just bootstrapping the whole thing? Like where it's like, hey, whatever money I make, not what everything, but like just reinvesting in yourself and into the company and just trying to grow it that way.
Yeah. So I was lucky to have a good amount of stock options in Super Coffee, as well as at Amazon, and from my previous job. So I liquidated it all, and then I used that money, or I reinvested that money into learning how to code, building this business. And then since then, that got it off the ground. And then I've been fortunate enough to make enough revenue to reinvest into the business by like upgrading my technology stack and marketing efforts and things like that. But my goal is to keep it bootstrapped as long as possible. I think that's like a growing trend in tech where, a lot of tech companies were getting funded like heavily by VCs because their valuations were so high. And then, that market has since corrected. And I think tech companies are realizing that it might be smarter for them to pursue more stable, sustainable growth. And that's like where I'm at completely, mainly because of my resources, but also because I just feel like that's the more logical and strategic approach.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good approach. It's also like the tech companies like you're referring to, obviously I don't know what you're thinking exactly, but like for so many of them, it was like grow as fast as we can. And then like the exit strategy was get bought out. Where like something, what you're doing, like you have a longer term plan for yourself. Where like, yeah, I mean, if somebody comes knocking 10 years from now with the right number, sure. Yeah. Like if you could freaking retire on your buyout number, yeah, a lot of people aren't going to say no to that.
Yep.
But I don't think like that's your intention with what you're doing. So yeah, approaching it from a bootstrap perspective versus like taking outside investment, I think it's a wise approach and honorable too. Like it's cool that like, again, you're just doubling down on yourself. And like, that's like one of the biggest takeaways, I think, like just like any aspiring entrepreneur potentially listening to this is like, just do not be afraid to bet on yourself and invest in yourself. Like even in the sense of like just paying yourself and investing money, even if it's just in the stock market and not necessarily directly into yourself, like stop buying stupid shit. Like invest in yourself, invest in your future, however that looks for you at the current moment, where it's like, hey, like you could have liquidated like I'm not saying you're dumb. I'm saying like a dumb 27-year-old like could have liquidated those stock options earlier and balled out for a year or two doing whatever. But like, luckily you were smart enough to keep those invested to the point where like you could reinvest them into yourself. But, I want to circle back to how you were saying like strategically setting yourself up for success by coming back to this market and working here versus New York. Dude, it's the most frustrating thing on earth when like a small business, like it's 2024. This message would apply in 2014 and probably 2004. So for 20 years, if you don't have a website and it's 2024, dude, you're not doing, like, I don't care how successful your business is. Like, you could be making $50 million in revenue a year, but what are you missing out on by not having a website? If you are making $50 million a year and you're like, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't need a website. Didn't need it this long, blah, blah, blah. But what are you missing out on? Like, your opportunity cost, because there's no recognition. Like, what if $100 million customer came knocking because you had a website where they could actually find out what you do instead of just word of mouth?
Totally.
Like, spend the whatever money to get your website created by this guy because of the opportunity cost that you're missing out on. So, like, it's 2024. If you don't I was talking about it with who was I talking about it with? I forget. But, like, restaurants who don't have websites at this point and, like, are relying on their Facebook menu pictures, you're crazy. Dude, like, invest in yourself a little bit. Like, theme of today. Invest in yourself, invest in your business. Like, get a proper menu, get it on a website, even if it's just a landing page. Like, something simple. I'm not scrolling through Facebook to find your menu. It's fucking insane. It's 2024.
Yeah. And even for, like, a restaurant, like, what's the first thing you do when you're trying to, you go on Google, you search it, and you try to see the reviews. You want to see the pictures on Yelp. You want to see, or at least on their website, like, something that represents them digitally.
Right. You're literally leaving it up to strangers on an outsider's perspective of your restaurant. Their shitty ass camera, and it's not even their fault, like, but it's a shitty picture from a cell phone in a dimly lit restaurant of, like, what could be a great plate instead of getting a properly pictured image of your, like, perfectly put together chicken parmesan. Like, highlight it on your website and on, like, with a good photographer and on a good website. Like, it's like, I can't believe people are still operating like that.
And you know, perception's reality too. So if you have a really kick-ass, like, sleek website, it's going to elevate your brand in a way where you can even charge more.
Yes.
Because of that perceived value. And, you know, I hear both sides. Like, I've had people tell me, like, exactly what you described. Like, my business is humming. Why do I need a website now? And then I have people who say, my business is humming, but I need to get to the next level. And that's where I need you to come in so that we can, you know, be more attractive and look more credible to some of those bigger fish that are out there.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's just like I'll give a perfect example. So I've just been, like, trying different bars, like, getting away from quote unquote, like, protein bars that you could probably get at, like, a convenience store, just because, like, they're filled with so much crap. And luckily, like, because of the internet, you could find these newer, like, convenient options that aren't filled with, like, bullshit ingredients. Like, I'm just looking to find, like, a 10 to 12 gram protein bar that doesn't have ingredients I can't pronounce. And I stumbled across this company. I think it's called Stars and Honey. And, like, their website is so on point, and the way they describe their ingredients, it's like, it's just so well crafted, and it's just, to your point, all perception, because I got the things and, like, they're good. I like them. But if their website didn't look the way they did and I tasted it, I wouldn't have bought them. And I got this, like, huge starter pack because I got, like, free shipping, whatever. So I bought, like, $110 worth of these bars, like 4 boxes. And, like, I know as a marketer, 75% of it was because their website was on point. And 25% was because it had the ingredients. And, like, dude, there's competition for everything out there. Like, you are competing in ways you can't even perceive. Like, you don't know how many people are going onto a Google search and not finding your website. Like, you cannot quantify that. So, like, to not have a website is just crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, and what I find fascinating, because it's, like, the work that I'm trying to get really good at, is every single element that was on that website was strategically decided. The curvature of the buttons, the size of the font, the typography used, the assets, the imagery, the copy. Every single thing was so well thought out, which led to you converting into a customer. And that's really, like, the message that I'm trying to provide to any lead that's interested in a website, is that we can, like, do some like psychological ops here with your website to make it more attractive to people. Like in marketing, it's show, don't tell. So how can we show the value that you have with your business in a really easy to understand fashion?
Right.
A nice website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. And like, hopefully, like, I think, especially recently, actually, like, I feel like for the first, whatever, like 5 years of local, a lot of it was just like friends and like people our age and family members catching on and whatever. I feel like the last year or two, a lot more local businesses have started getting on board, which is awesome. Like that's ultimately the end goal. Like absolutely. I'm like, I want to find ways to collaborate. Like I want whatever. Hopefully if any of those people are listening right now, like get your friends in the industry and like get them on board and let's up the standard a little bit here. I think, there are we are lucky in that regard. Like there's so many mom and pop shops still around here, and unfortunately like they are dwindling because like that generation of boomers and younger are fizzling out, and less people are starting restaurants and stuff just because it's a grueling lifestyle and everything like that. But like taking advantage of them while we're here, like, hey, do it right if you're gonna be doing it.
On that note, one of my like things the thing by far I miss most while living away, other than my parents and family, was the food.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh man, and like you talk about those mom and pop shops, like I love the food here, man. Grace loves the food here, man. So it's been really nice being back for many reasons, but definitely for that reason.
Yeah, food is the ultimate like bring everybody together, bring everybody back. Like bridge. If you really think about it, like some of your best times in life, like your biggest core memories, they do revolve around food.
Do you watch The Bear?
Yes.
Oh man,
dude, do you watch season 3 yet?
Oh yeah.
It's
half of it, so no spoilers.
I'm not gonna say a word. I love The Bear.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
When he in that first season, when he reads the card from his brother, let it rip. That moment for me, I was like,
yeah, for you, I bet.
was ready to go after
I bet, man.
that. I mean, I cried, but then I was ready to go.
Yeah, that'll give you goosebumps for
sure. Such a good show, dude. Like,
I was saying, so like, as I'm watching it, it's almost an exaggerated version around here because like there are definitely those characters where like it's like you're rough around the edges, the banter, like just screaming at each other back and forth, and like. Like you don't bat an eye, it's just normal. Like I don't hate you the next day, like whatever, like that type of brotherhood that those two have in the show, dude. That's hard to act like that without having that real rapport with somebody. Like that's the most impressive part to me, where like when they're screaming at each other in the kitchen or in the front of the sub shop or like this whatever, wherever they were, you have to remember like those two are strangers essentially. And like you would swear they grew up together and now they're 40 years old, and like this like unbreakable bond. I'm like, that's the most impressive like acting job I've seen in a while.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm sure you appreciate too like the videography of it all.
Oh yeah,
I love like they could go 5 minutes. I think it went like 5 minutes of the first episode of the third season with like almost no dialogue.
I know.
And it was just them following around Carmi, like walking through the restaurant, front to house, back to house. So much like stimulation and action, and you're just like glued to the television. You can't look away.
I know. The way it's shot is incredible. I'm like starting to get a different level of appreciation from the video production side of things, and noticing stuff that like maybe not everybody does, and it's unreal. Dude, I was just going to bring it up. That first episode, I think there's 8 words spoken in the whole episode. How long is the episode? Longer than a half hour, right?
Definitely.
It's like close to an hour. I think he cursed like 2 or 3 times. And then there was like 1 or 2 sentences back and forth. I can't really remember exactly. But I was glued to my seat the whole time. Yeah, it's like a silent film.
It was excellent, man.
Yeah, it's a great show. And like, I've been trying to like tell people, they're like, I'm not into it. I think anybody would like that show.
100%. If it's a hard question to answer sometimes, particularly because, and this is me opening up an entire new can of worms, the content on like Netflix and Hulu, you have all these streaming apps with all of these different like shows and movies, and it's all crap. Yeah. But like, if you can say with confidence a show to recommend to somebody, that's the one.
Agreed. I've said this in the past. Like, I don't love recommending things because obviously everybody has different tastes, and like, who am I to say like what I liked is what you're gonna like? I would have no problem recommend. And like, I do once every 3 months or once every 4 months. It might be a food, it might be a drink, it might be a show, whatever. Like, I'll go hard for that one thing because I truly believe in it, and that is the bear for me right now. We were just talking about it over the 4th weekend. Yeah. I was surprised. My mom has been watching it, and I wasn't expecting her to, and my sister hadn't yet, and I'm like, oh my God. And like, I know just because like an Italian household, like we're around food and like not, and she worked in restaurants like in high school and college and stuff. So like, I'm like, you would definitely like it. You don't have to have that background to like the show, but I'm like, you would definitely appreciate it. I feel like any guy would appreciate it. The banter's just on point.
Incredible. I mean, who are the brothers in the last episode, in the last season? I can't remember their names.
I'm so bad at remembering characters' names.
Too, but those guys crack me up.
They're so funny.
They're awesome.
So the one guy's like actually, the one who's a server.
Yeah. With all the tattoos?
Yeah, he's a real chef.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
big
know
time.
that.
Like big, like has his own shows and shit.
And he's got that much like sense of humor?
Yeah.
All right.
I know.
All right.
He's it's like Matt. Oh fuck, I forget. But I'm pretty he's a chef. He's like,
I can't cook to save my life. I have 36 stitches lifetime from kitchen accidents alone. So I have the utmost appreciation and respect for those who do have that skill set, because I don't. I enjoy eating it. I'm pretty good at that part.
Yeah, we could definitely do that part. Dude, that whole world, like, talk about up in your level.
Yeah.
Like, not to circle it back, but like, it's insane to me. Like, and maybe that's not a perfect depiction because it is a show and you have to dramatize it, whatever. But like, between that and I think there was another movie, I forget if it's called Burn, Bradley Cooper.
Oh yeah,
it's like a Michelin star, trying to be a Michelin star chef. And I feel like they're the same in terms of like the peek behind the curtain in the Michelin star world. It's insane that places like that exist and that level of training. Like, there are lunatics and military level training and like criticism coming down on you for years at a time just to get to like a certain level with a knife.
I could never. Like, that type of behavior was why I left the corporate world.
Yes.
Like, I just could not tolerate that. And in college, like, coaches were the same way. They would get on my, it wasn't like at Valley View where like, you know, you're a good player, you're going to be able to do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
Their jobs are on the line in college.
Right.
So like, if you're not performing, which a lot of the times I wasn't, they're on you and they're not nice about it, you know? So like, I mean, I just think Carmi's like really fascinating as a character because like, you can tell he's like so challenged emotionally and mentally, and he just channels it all into his craft, which I guess is cool, but I just hope that the show doesn't end with him doing something that we all wouldn't want to see.
I know, that would be tough. He does do a hell of a job like depicting that like internal battle and like even just like it's very
human.
It's yes, and like it's by design, but like the stuff he doesn't say and like what he struggles with, like how he can't say certain things to certain people, and like it's just it's very interesting take and new fresh take on a character. I really like it. He's very complicated. So talking about like how Carmi, I guess, like they talked about it in season 3. I think it was a flashback to his older brother just saying like it was when what's her name, I don't want to ruin anything, but anyway, he was talking about Carmi and he was like talking him up and he's like, he's just the fucking man.
Yeah.
And
yeah, he's showing the photo of the dish he made.
Yeah, and he's like, he just knew. Like, don't you ever just wish you knew from an early age what you wanted to do and just pursue that and become excellent at that? He's like, that's Carmi, and like finding like he knew his passion and he was going to pursue it 130% no matter what. And I think that's true for some people, where it's just like the writing's on the wall. That's what they're good at. That's what they're going to do. And that's what they're meant to do. Like, it's like God, like came down and said, this is what you're going to do.
Yep.
The world deserves it. And you deserve it. Like, you owe yourself it.
Yeah.
For everybody else, I think it's interesting because you hear so many times, and it's always from already successful people, where they're like, just follow your passion.
Yeah.
And I think that's bullshit advice sometimes, because I think a lot of passions could be unveiled through success.
Okay.
I think recognizing your knack for something, again, through that undeniable stack of evidence and proof that you're good at it, it then becomes your passion. Versus, I love art, I'm going to paint, and I'm going to paint until I'm successful at it and somebody starts paying me for it. That happens too. But I think there are certain things where it's like, if you have an innate skill that's somewhat related to a certain discipline, and you pursue that, you'll find passion for it 2 years in when you start getting exceptionally good at it and other people start recognizing you for it.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting take, and one I've honestly never heard before, but I agree with you now that I'm thinking about it. I've always considered the passion coming before the success. But like when I'm thinking about it, like of all the things that I've worked really hard on, I didn't love doing it at the time. It was just something that I had to do, or I felt like I had to do, and I didn't start to really enjoy it until I got good at it.
Right.
And then once I got good at it, it was like golf. Like you hit that one good shot, and now it's your passion. Like you're hooked. You're chasing that feeling over and over and over again. But like you need to taste the success prior to getting that like addiction, so to speak.
Yeah, sometimes.
I like that.
Yeah, sometimes I think I don't know, like it's just so easy to say like follow your passion and then like people fizzle out. Not working towards the accolade is like how you were just saying, like you didn't start to really like it until you recognize some of the rewards from it. But like while you were in it, you weren't doing it for the accolades, which is why it worked. Like if your end goal, like you're talking about Jack Carr earlier, right? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when he started, like he just molded his world. Like he came from the military background and was obsessed with reading forever, meshed those two worlds together and wrote something. He wasn't writing it to appease certain people or for the accolades. It was just, those were the two things that he knew and he was very good at, molded them together. And then that's when you end up with the best byproduct of things. I think when you're looking for the end result in the beginning, I think, I don't know how, but it bleeds through and it never works out. It's like trying to go viral on social media. Like, look at the Hawk to a Girl.
Yeah.
She had it wasn't her video. She's not trying to go viral, but that's her authentic self. She was just drunk with her friends on Broadway and had a moment.
Now she's getting paid $30,000 to judge bikini contests.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't replicate authenticity. So it's like you're better off just being your true authentic self. What I'm saying is, I guess you have a hunch at what you're good at. Go that route. I don't know. I'm repeating myself a little bit here.
I know where you're going with this, and I totally agree, because like I wasn't one of those blessed people who just like had this calling from a very early age and was able to like dedicate my entire life to that. I spent a lot of time and a lot of trials and tribulations trying to figure out what it was I was good at, and not only if I was good at it, but if I enjoyed doing it.
Right.
And like it's really easy to compare yourself to like other people and like seeing them be super successful, particularly if they've like stuck to something since college or even earlier. But like I've always had this belief that it was more important for me to enjoy the work I was doing than to get paid for it. And I was on a mission throughout my 20s to figure out what it was I enjoyed doing. The money was great, the experiences were great, but like I knew that wouldn't last forever.
Right.
So like what was something that I could hang my hat on is I want to do this for the rest of my life because it makes me happy when I do it and I'm good at it.
Right.
And it took me, like I told you, like I was bartending, I was selling tickets at Madison Square Garden, I was slinging insurance, I was slinging super coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to try things. I truly believe in that, particularly when you're younger.
Yes.
You have to explore as much as you possibly can explore, meet as many people as you can, because eventually you'll be able to refine what it is you want to do with your life, and then you can pursue it full speed.
Yeah, and it's like, to your point, it's striking the balance of those three things. Like, what am I good at? What do I enjoy doing? Mm-hmm. And then also, like, does it afford me the life I want to live? Like, and do I wake up excited to do it for the next, like, 20, 30 years? Like, it all ties in together. But, yeah, it does take a ton of exploration. And, like going back to like, maybe 1 in 10 or less, like probably 1 in 50 people like really know, even if it's age 15, like, I'm fucking doing this and that's it. Dude. And like, yeah, it would be nice to have that level of clarity, but like a lot of us we're like 26, 27, whatever. And it's like, maybe I want to do this, but like, did I just land here and is life happening to me and I'm not like living life? Like, I don't know. One other thing, I really enjoy this type of stuff, and other people definitely don't. But it's in the vein of this podcast. Okay. Like, some people are just like, don't care about productivity, don't care about how you structure your day, whatever. But there is a whole genre on the internet for it, and I am one of those people, because I do like trying to better myself and you know, pursue the most efficient or become the most optimized version of myself, physically, mentally, whatever. So I'm curious, like, I feel like you're in that same vein as well. What is, with the level of freedom that you have now, right? You're your own boss. You are trying to grow a business. Like, you're a new dad. You're going to be like a husband. There's all these things you have to juggle. What's a day in the life look like, and how are you setting yourself up for success in terms of managing your business and productivity?
Got it. So every day is different because of all those reasons you mentioned. And that's one thing that I've really had to adjust to, is being flexible, because I've been very routine as a person. I've been someone who's thrived off routine. And with all of these new components in my life, like a 1-year-old daughter, planning a wedding, living with my parents, growing a business, I've had to learn how to balance everything together. And it's not easy, but for the most part, like, I try to stick to the routine as much as possible. I've always been an early riser, so I'm up early, and then I hang out with my daughter for the first hour of my day, and that's usually when she's like her happiest. So it's like great for me, because I just get to start my day with like her being smiling, laughing, and like now she's learning words and she's walking. So that's like exciting. That's like the best part of my day. It's just waking up and hanging out with Leah, and then I try to start working like at 7, and then I work best in 4-hour chunks. That's something that I've learned in my life. So I'll work until about 11:30, and then I go to the gym. And I've always been a big advocate of lunch workouts. Since I started in the professional world, I've always tried to...
I'm a fan.
Yeah, to work out on my lunch. So I stick to that. I go to Crunch. I get my workout in. I come back. I work more until about 5, and then hang out with Aaliyah some more. And then at night, it depends. But that's when you're trying to like find time with your partner, right? Like, that's the time you have to, keep the relationship strong, and like go out on date nights, and like just talk to her, understand what she's going through. And that's very important to me, is to ensure that like I'm putting my time and effort in that way. And then sleep is hard to come by, frankly. Over the last year, I haven't been able to sleep too much.
Could imagine.
Unfortunately, Aaliyah is still not sleeping through the night. She's like a tank. She's big, so she eats a lot. And she'll wake up like every 3 or 4 hours overnight, and she just needs like 6 or 7 ounces of like milk and just crushes it. And then she'll go right back to sleep. So I like it because I'm hoping she's going to be, she's going to
everything's in 4 hours for you.
Yeah, exactly.
What's it called?
Kobe Bryant. I think he lived his life that way, right?
Yeah, him and Vin Diesel. Quarter mile at a time. Same as 4 hours, I guess.
I guess my reference was because Kobe was like a big advocate of sleeping in like 2 or 3 hour chunks.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
That was like his whole thing.
Yeah, the reference went right over my head. I figured I was missing something there. Deep work is the word I was looking for. 4 hours of deep work, break, and then 4 hours of deep work. And hey, maybe your daughter just got your genes. She's like, I could only do 4 hours at a time.
Maybe, but I hope she gets my fiance's genes because she could jump a lot higher than I could. Grace was a volleyball player, so Leah can follow in her footsteps.
That'd be nice. A couple extra hops. Maybe get your hands when you're when you don't have the yips.
No promises there. Cody McAndrew always makes fun of me because he's like, Lalli, you were a good receiver, but you couldn't jump over a phone book. And I was like, that's why I reproduce with the right lady. She's gonna take care of Aaliyah.
Get the best of both worlds. That's perfect. No, it's cool because I think like for people who are like pursuing their own business or anything like that, I think to your point, like with the flexibility, like you have to be flexible with some things and rigid in like the North Star, if you will, where it's like, all right, like it's not going to ruin my day if something pops up and I have to attend to that for an hour. But ultimately, like it's very easy to get lax and potentially like lose focus on some of the end goals, like especially if you're in a particular job that doesn't have hard deadlines or you're not working with customers and it's like or clients, like I think it's just really easy to lose your way. So I'm always interested to like see how people keep their rigidity with certain things.
Do you follow Alex Hormozy?
I don't follow him, but I follow a lot of people where he's a guest on their pod and stuff.
Yeah, so he's a big advocate of like saying no. Like, in order to maintain your focus, you have to be willing to say no, which often means sometimes hurting people's feelings. If you get an invite to go out on a Friday night, but like you're like, no, dude, like I have a project I'm working on.
Right.
So like having the confidence, or maybe not the confidence, but like not being worried about hurting other people's feelings.
Yeah, people pleasing tendencies could get you. Dude, ultimately, like I was thinking as you were saying that, like that does rub some people the wrong way, and it does, I think, stem from like an insecurity of them where it's like the same way we had chips on our shoulders in college about what XYZ. It's like a weird chip on their shoulder where it's like, relax, bro. Like you're not a fuck, like whatever, and like you could go out on a Friday, like. Yeah, man, I could, but like I have other ambitions too. Like, and like I could find, like, let me find the balance. Like, I don't need you to find the balance for me. And if that ultimately, like, you get offended and can't respect my decision to do that, like, I'll still be a good friend in a different way, or make up for it in the following weekend or whatever. Like, I'll drop by your house on a Tuesday. Like, but like, don't give me shit about not going out. Like, I like, especially when you have a family and stuff. Like priorities, man.
I mean, unfortunately, I do think that stems from, their insecurity. I think they see someone like that doing something that they wish they had the courage or whatever to do.
Right.
And it makes them feel a little bit less about themselves. And like that's nobody's intention when you're starting a business or you're pursuing your dreams. Like I'm not doing this to hurt other people's feelings. I'm doing this to like better my family and better myself. And like, I would love if you could understand and support that and respect that and understand that if I'm not available, it's because of that reason.
Right. It's not an indication of how I feel towards you or our relationship.
Nothing
it's just
personal.
Like, hey, sometimes you got to take care of business. It is what it is, man.
Yep.
It is funny. Like, I don't know, whatever. I'll go on a tangent. I got 2 questions and then we could wrap.
Okay.
I heard this the other day on the internet and I thought it was such a good question because I think how you were just saying, like your intentions with your business is to ultimately help people. I think that is a woven thing. Like it's not just like how you're saying, like you spent so much time figuring out what you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, you are in an industry now where you're working with clients and you are of service.
Mm-hmm.
Are you getting paid for it? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, it's to service them and help them
Mm-hmm.
and or their business.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's for everybody. I think there's something to be said for that. So with that being said, if you could put up a billboard for the entire world to see,
Mm-hmm.
what would your message be on it?
That is a great question.
I know it's hard. I don't know. I don't even know my answer.
Oh, man. So, wow. It's great. So this is like a billboard for life. This is not a billboard for business.
Whatever.
Okay.
And you put it up right now, but the whole world sees it. What would it say?
I mean, I got to go with it because it's tattooed on my arm. Be here now.
I like it.
And the reason why I say that is because I wouldn't have been able to answer any of these questions thoughtfully with conviction had I not been listening actively to what you were asking me. So like by being present here, I was able to actually have a good conversation with you, which will provide me with like long-lasting memories. I'll never forget this podcast now. And I think if people were to apply that mentality to everything they did, I think they would find a lot more joy out of the things that they did, even the mundane things like doing the laundry or doing the dishes, by just blocking out the noise and being present in the moment. I think it would be really powerful for everyone.
I like that. I think it's very relevant today too. And I'm definitely guilty of it, but I think it's so easy to get distracted now and to be taken out of moments. And it's as simple as, I was thinking about it the other day where it's like in the same way, you don't know who's not going to your website that doesn't exist. You don't know what moments are passing you by because they never get the opportunity to arise. And it could be as simple as, like, I honestly thought of it the other day. I think we were at like a 4th of July party and my little cousin was on his phone, and like in that particular moment, it was just him and my older cousin, like his uncle, standing next to each other. And it's just like, it could have been like a special bonding moment. It could have been nothing, but it could have been a special bonding moment. And like my older cousin was just trying to talk to him or whatever, and he's like fiddling around on his phone. And that's a kid. Like, I'm not gonna say be present to a kid or whatever.
Right.
But I think that example rings true with a lot of things. Like all of us, like who grew up now, like when we're attached to our phones to an extent, like those moments could be happening all around you, but your phone's in your hand, so you're not there at the table with your 3 buddies and like having those like 2 a.m. moments of just like shit you'll never forget.
The moment I stopped living my life for social media was the moment my mood started to increase. I started being happier and more fulfilled when I just acted out my life based on like what was going on around me.
Right.
And not trying to like pause and like document it. You know, like it's okay to do those things, but like that shouldn't be your intention. Like live the experience, document it after the fact, and then post it.
Right.
If you're proud of it and you enjoyed your experience. But like you're missing out on so much by just, you know, living your life that way. And I know we already sound like we're getting old and like, you know, condemning the younger generation for being on their phones too much, but like we're guilty of it too. But truly, like, I know mental health is a big topic and like very important to me too. I, you know, have dealt with depression and anxiety, and the second that I like stopped worrying so much about social media was when I started to like see improvement in that area.
I almost feel like, to your point about the younger gen, I almost feel like they might have recognized it. I think it's already cycling.
You think?
I do. I think they're attached to their phones in different ways because that's their way of communicating potentially more so than we were more in person. Mm-hmm. But in terms of living their authentic life, I think they might be doing it more than it has been done in the past, like say 6 or 7 years since like Instagram really popped off. Wonderful. I really do think it's already cycling back where it's like, what for? I just feel like people are using Instagram less. I feel like I feel like it's everybody's automatic like go-to where it's just like you have a blank moment in time. Like you're not going to just sit there and be bored. Like you'll go on Facebook or Instagram and scroll or whatever. But I think people are already starting to realize that it's better, like basically what everything you're just saying. Yeah. Similar to how we were saying just with like going to college versus trade school, how it cycles back and water finds its level. Yeah. I think we went so far with it that it is starting to slowly come back. Yeah. It's nowhere near like a healthy balance, but I do think, at least in my world, I've noticed a slowdown.
Well, that's very encouraging to hear as a new dad because, you know, my daughter is already like very good with my phone. Like she almost knows how to control it.
Dude, it's insane how fast they learn how to use it. It's like they have it built into them. Like how do they know how to get to YouTube Kids or whatever? Like it's fucking insane.
It really is. It really is. But yeah, be here now, man. That's what I would say.
I like it. This is I don't know. This wouldn't be my message, but as I was thinking about it, it's just one thing that always stuck with me. Talking about good Valley View football players. I'm pretty sure it was Kyle Panettieri who said this one time. And somebody asked him if he was nervous before a football game. And he said, getting nervous is like a rocking chair. Gives you something to do, but gets you nowhere.
I love it.
For some reason, that always stuck with me. So it's like no reason to get nervous.
Oh, buddy, I get nervous almost for everything. I was nervous.
Maybe that one will stay with you.
On the way in, I need to get more rocking chairs or less rocking chairs.
Oh man, good stuff. I think so. I've been meaning to do this on every podcast, and I keep forgetting. So, but I remembered it this time, so let's do it. So, just simple favorite local spot right now. Could be bar, restaurant, shop, whatever. Somebody running a small business, just somebody you want to shout out, a local business right now.
Stonehenge Golf Course.
Hell yeah.
I've been spending all my weekends at Stonehenge. The bartenders there treat me real nice.
It's awesome.
Love the people there. Stonehenge, the course is in great condition. They're doing a lot of good work there as well. I'm really selling Stonehenge right now, but that would be my place, yeah.
Stonehenge is beautiful. I never played there, but I'm itching to get there.
Just brace yourself for the second hole.
All right.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm bad at golf. It's work in progress, but cool. Shout out Stonehenge. All right, last little reminder here, moonrooster.com.
Yes.
Best place to get in touch with you.
Yep.
If anybody needs a website, Lalli's your guy. And he's doing some great work. I saw, like you mentioned earlier, Steferski's and Joyce Electric were two of the most recent ones, I think, that maybe went live with you. And like I briefly looked at them. They look awesome, man. You're doing some great work, and those are two good families. So shout out to them too. And cheers to much success. I have no doubts. Moon Rooster's going to the moon. No pun intended. I didn't mean to do that.
Well played. Listen, man, I appreciate you saying that. It's been awesome being here. So thank you for having me. And likewise, brother. Congrats to you for all your success.
Thanks, man. All right, we'll run it back someday.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Let's play golf. I know I could win money off it.
Yeah.